Welcome to Talking Triathlon. It's a slightly different week this week. We haven't got Tim Ford, but this is, as always, the show that talks about triathlon. So I've drafted in my good friend Andrew Horsfall-Turner, pro triathlete, to come and join me and co-host on this week's show to talk about all things that have happened and all things that are happening. Andrew, how you doing?
Yeah, good mate. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to hear two lovely British voices instead of that Australian, you have from time to time or
Yeah, Australian drawl. I see you've got yourself a microphone. Is that something you already had, or did you go and splash out, being that you
or
got the invite?
I do a weekly podcast with a few other pro triathletes, the Chase Pack.
Oh, there
So
you go.
yeah, we're trying to up our audio quality, so microphones are a must.
Nice, nice. How's life, mate? Tell
Yeah,
us
mate,
about you a
good.
little bit. I mean, I just introduced you as pro triathlete. Many of the listeners will know that you're a pro triathlete. Many may not. So, tell us a bit about your current situation.
Yeah, so I'm a pro triathlete from the UK. I've been racing pro now for 2 seasons, going into my third. Um, Before I did triathlon, I was a swimmer here in the UK. So big background in swimming, and yeah, just in my 20s started dabbling in Ironman, and here we are. Here we are.
And here we are. When is your first race of 2024?
So I'll be kicking off in Ironman Texas, which is 3 weeks away now. So yeah, it's coming up nice and quick. Um, Looking at Oceanside start list, I think Texas is going to be pretty stacked, and also yeah, maybe not have 81 men, but it's going to be a pretty exciting race. Just to kickstart the year, and it's pretty exciting with the Pro Series and everything that's happening this year. Kind of Ironman's answer to PTO and the T100, but yeah, it's going to be an exciting year for sure.
Yes, it is. Now, you're coached by good friend of the podcast, David Tilbury Davis. Have you and David put together a strategy for Texas? What's the plan? Are you allowed to
Oh,
share it?
I mean, those who know me, there's it's not going to be a surprise, but yeah, the intent is always to be at the front of the race. Yeah, using the swim background, I want to be out the water, right at the front of the race, and I think the key for me is being a relatively new pro is not quite having the success over the full distance yet, and it definitely just takes time. And I think, I don't think I ever ran a Well, I didn't even start running till 2018, so I'm very fresh to kind of the sport. And when you're racing against people who've been, doing elite triathlon for years now, it's just taking that time. So I'm basically trying to put the pieces together, be at the front of the race, and yeah, hopefully turn some heads.
Nice, nice. And what's the training like at the moment? How's today been, for example?
You've asked me on like the most least heroic day ever. So today has been like a recovery day. So I had an hour
There's no way
swim.
your day was as bad as mine, mate. So just rock on, rock
I
on.
had like, yeah, just an hour swim, and some like really easy like mobility rehab kind of prehab work. Um, Off the back of a big day yesterday where I spent 6.5 hours on the bike. So yeah, so heavy training, but the days kind of fluctuate massively at the moment where, you're doing a big brick session one day and then the next day is a recovery day. So feeling the Ironman fatigue. And I've got kind of a big week and a half now push before we start thinking about taper. But yeah, so if I sound a bit groggy tonight, it's because I'm just a little bit tired.
Yeah, yeah. When you start thinking about taper, you'll start thinking you're getting ill and all that, and then
Oh yeah,
you know,
for sure.
paranoia will creep in. So, I've had an interesting day.
Yes.
I've had a unique day. As you can probably, audio listeners won't be able to see this, but you will on the video. I've had some sort of facial allergic reaction to something, and I've come up in blotches. And then I got home tonight, and it transpires that somebody's hacked my Uber account and stolen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds from my bank account. So I've been desperately calling the bank trying to sort that out. So that's been my afternoon. It's been joyous.
It hasn't been a good one. Hasn't been a good
Hasn't
one.
been a good
It's all-
one, mate. Hasn't been a good one. I look
You've had
like I've
better. You've had
stuffed my
better.
face into a patch of stinging nettles and then just given away all my money to
You
Uber.
know what? You know what they say though. All bad things happen in threes. So I'm
Yeah,
really
yeah,
sorry to
yeah,
break
yeah.
that to you.
Sharing a podcast with you, mate.
True. There you go. Done it. There
There
you go.
you
Finish it
go.
off tonight.
So, what's been going on? Being that you're on the podcast and we haven't had you on before, what I'd like to get your opinion as a relative new pro on the PTO series. What is the plan? What's your opinion on the plan? And what's your opinion on the execution so far? Miami, for
Yes.
example.
Yeah. It's been really exciting because the PTO was basically being established just before I even turned professional. So for someone like myself, racing age group, and seeing kind of this organization being set up, it was very promising, I guess, like for someone who's about to turn professional. And then obviously over the last couple of years, we've seen this development into the PTO Opens and then now the T100 series. And I think the the strategy in which they're going about, I think, is good. Like they're looking at trying to develop the TV and the media aspect of triathlon to make it mainstream. And from my perspective, that can only have a positive impact across the
Mm.
board. Even though the athletes like myself who are not racing that series, if triathlon becomes a bigger sport, then potentially there's more marketing opportunities for athletes like myself. Um, that being said, I think Miami was a difficult one for the PTO. It just didn't. I mean, I watched I watched both races. I watched the men's and the women race, and I
Don't lie to
enjoyed.
me, man. You went to bed. I remember you saying, "I'm done. I'm going to bed."
I went to bed like most of the way through the women's race. Um, I think for me, it was just I enjoyed the men's race in terms of like being a true triathlon fan as well as a pro athlete. I'm just enjoying the spectacle of like watching these guys like kick chunks out of each other. Um, but I did just feel like the media let itself like let the race down a little bit. And for me, it wasn't actually like the camera or the commentary. The commentary was good, the cameras were good. Not so much in the women's race, but we'll gloss over that a little bit. Um, but what did it for me was there was no atmosphere. There was no. You want to see like a stand packed with people. You want to see people at the side of the course. So like the some of the most exciting things I've ever seen, or been a part of, are things like watching cyclists go up Soderberg Hill in Challenge Roth and seeing that like Tour de France style, opening of the crowds. And I've done Ironman Wales as an amateur and then as a professional. And the same thing you have on Heartbreak Hill is this basically the road is full of people and you're cycling through the middle of these people. And things like that on camera will look incredible and they'll inspire people and they'll basically people stop and look and listen. An empty racing track just for me
Mm.
just didn't give that excitement factor. Um, and it's not to say that like this series obviously is going to be long and there's obviously, I think it's 8 races, isn't it, in total? So there's a lot of opportunity for some of these locations to be super exciting, like when they do Challenge London, not Challenge London, T100 London, which used to be Challenge London. Like that has the potential to be an epic race. Um, so from the standpoint of like the series this season, I think Miami was slightly underwhelming. But I'm still like super excited to see how they like follow on this the rest of the year and then how that then develops into next year. I think that's the key, really.
Yeah, I think we can definitely give them a pass, almost. You
Yeah.
know, there was almost a perfect storm because they had to rely on the production company that kind of came with the track, is what I've heard. And, technical issues with broadcasting cameras can happen, and I think not predicting that when it got dark it might be a bit difficult to see was probably a bit
Yeah.
of an error. Um, but as much as people like us who are on the inside of the sport can say, look, yeah, we're going to give you time. There is also the argument that it's got to be better. It's got to be better because that person that tuned in for the first time, never having watched triathlon before, because they heard about this new event, might have seen that in Miami and just gone, "Nah, this is not for me." So it has
Yeah.
to be better, and it has to be better fairly quickly, I think.
And it only takes something like really small to do that and to kind of attract someone to becoming a fan. I think you just need like obviously you need drama, but you need the backdrop, the excitement. And I think some of the locations and events they've chosen, so they I'm not sure the exact name of it. I think T100 California it might be.
Hmm.
But the race that basically is Alcatraz, that has the potential with the backdrop of the Golden Gate Bridge and the kind of extreme nature of that event, that has the big potential to, if you tune into that, people could instantly get quite excited about the app, like the where they're racing. It's like people go there on holiday, they visit, and then seeing people racing a triathlon in the middle of that is exciting. And that's where I guess like races like Miami in the future, maybe they don't become part of the series long term, and maybe they it was just like for the first year you have an event like that. Um, but I think these events really need to get people excited, and I
Yeah.
think I keep saying it, but I think T100 London definitely has that potential. Um, just historic city, isn't it? Historic city, and I think the backdrop there is perfect.
Yeah, man. They've got to get the crowds out. Or the problem, like you say, the problem with a big empty racing track is that if it's going to be empty, then those camera shots and that production has to be tight so as not to
Perfect, yeah.
show the scale of the emptiness almost.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's such a young sport. It has the potential. And sports that have been going on for like almost hundreds of years now, you can see how they developed and how they started, and we are in a foundational period for them. Um, and I think, and obviously we're going to chat a little bit more about later with Oceanside and coming up and stuff like that, is that I think the PTO and the T100 series, they're forcing Ironman to step up their game in terms of their coverage, in terms of like the series they're putting on for the pro athletes, and also their dedication to kind of pre-post content they put out on social media and stuff like that. And again, I just think that if everyone can kind of work together in this kind of, I know competitors in a sense, but if everyone can kind of work together in this kind of like nice harmony, the sport will grow because
Yeah.
everyone just like you and I both triathlon fans, like we love to see content come out on social media and things like that. And the more of that and the better quality that is, and then the better production they have at events, it's yeah, super exciting. And for someone like myself who's racing in these events, like it's gonna only be of benefit the more this media product can grow.
Yeah. I think we're seeing the PTO are getting what they're getting right is that content production around these events. They're very good on the social media. They're very good on creating content, creating narrative, creating stories, giving people an insight to the athletes. What needs to be better and what they know needs to be better, I'm quite sure, is that race weekend package where they're providing on-screen graphics need to be a bit better. People need to be able to understand. If you haven't got cameras that can cover the whole field, then you need to have data on the screen that's giving people a real context around what's happening, a context to the story that's developing in front of them. Otherwise, it, you won't get anything from a long course triathlon unless there's a story to follow.
Yeah, yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. And then I guess the kind of thing that people have been saying is like, well, the PTO have kind of had a couple of years now where they've kind of done a few opens and they've had an opportunity to kind of practice and rehearse. And I hope and I think that from everything that has sort of come out, I believe that like Singapore is going to be the first opportunity for them to really kind of show what they want to put out. As you said, like Miami, they were kind of reliant on internal media production. So I'm excited to see how different Singapore is, and if that can hopefully wow everyone, um, then that will hopefully become the new normal long term.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we want. We want exciting racing, want exciting events. Did you by any chance see the World Triathlon Indoor Cup Levin?
I did well, I saw some stuff on social media. I didn't watch the event. I watched a little bit of it actually last year, which was super cool. And by all accounts, I think that what I kind of made a comment about Miami kind of not having a atmosphere, this was the complete polar opposite. Am I right?
That is what I am led to believe. I had the Talking Triathlon WhatsApp group led by Tim Ford absolutely exploding when this race was taking place with enthusiasm about quite how atmospheric it was. They had DJs, they had all the light effects and everything like that kicking off, making it feel like a real um, event and something that this is the kind of thing that me and Tim have been saying for years now, I would say, is capture that atmosphere, capture the energy of a triathlon and give it to the audience at the same time.
And you had some big names racing as well, didn't you? People like Vincent Louis and Georgia Taylor Brown, Gwen Jorgensen. So like the yes, like they created a great little atmosphere and kind of venue for this event, and then they've drawn in some big guns. I think that just then everything's enhancing and everything in that situation.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the more you can make it a atmospheric event plus add in the exciting racing, the more likely you are to get people to tune in on TV, but also to see it on TV and think, I want tickets to that. I'm going to go along next time. You know,
I,
looking at pictures of the stands where they were racing around that track, that's the sort of density of people you wanted to see in Miami.
yeah, and I think that can happen. I think longer term, and as I said, we'll see what happens the rest of the season with the T100. But if you create these small pockets of kind of really condensed spectators and fans, the atmosphere that just goes crazy with that is unreal. Like I think I remember back to is it 2020 when the PTO did that challenge Daytona champs at the end of COVID?
Yeah.
And there was this section with some fans there, and it wasn't a very big section, but I think it was the first time I ever kind of took notice of Sam Long, and he was kind of going up there like he was like tri-suit zip down, like waving the crowd on, and there was kind of this big like buzz atmosphere, and they captured that amazingly well on the video. So that kind of got people very excited, and I think yeah, I think more of that, more of that.
So, who won the men's race, mate, at the Triathlon World Cup 11?
Oh, it was a British guy, wasn't it? Was it?
No, it was a
No.
Norwegian chap.
Oh, it was Thorn.
Yeah,
Bethel.
Vertel Bergsvik Thorn. I was
That's the
just trying to see
one.
if you could pronounce his name as opposed to me,
Absolutely not.
because I would butcher that. Second place was Vincent Louis. Third place was Casper Stornes. On the women's side, first place was Laura Lindemann. Second, Georgia Taylor Brown. And third, Gwen Jorgensen. Now, there's a talking point.
Is she gonna make the Olympics?
What do you think? Because
It's gonna be.
we're seeing signs of form here. I mean,
I mean, fairy tale wise, it would be incredible to see the 2016 Olympic champion leave the sport, dabble in marathon running, and then come back to the sport and then make another Olympic Games. I think
yeah.
the what's the word? It's a very poetic end to that story. If she's to race in Paris,
And America
I,
loves a comeback.
they
Any
do love a
country on the
comeback.
planet loves a comeback. It's America.
And I think the only issue she has is that the a bit like the British ladies, the US are so strong and there's sort of probably three or four of them that are fighting for one spot, if I'm right.
Hmm.
So this is where it kind of I don't know the exact protocol they have over in the US, but I do believe that politics then does start to come into play with, relay
Yeah,
selections
it's
and who's going
very
to add value.
discretionary in the US. You
Mm.
know, they don't really have a it's kind of they um Nib has qualified and then
Yeah.
there's discretionary after that, basically.
And I think from their standpoint, they're probably thinking of maximizing medal opportunities, which they should be, which,
Well, of course they are,
which
yeah.
the mixed relay is the obvious one. So they probably are looking at who is gonna help facilitate a gold medal. And I guess Gwen racing these short races and proving that she's running and swimming and biking pretty fast, definitely won't hurt her favor.
No, no, I mean, look, we know that the shorter the race, the almost the harder and the smaller the margins get. If you can be in third place behind the likes of Laura Lindemann, Georgia Taylor Brown, who's making a comeback as well, and it's good to see her up there, then you are showing that you are firing with some of the best in the sport over the shorter distance. You've still got ping in your legs.
Yeah, massively. And I think I don't know when their final qualifying race is going to be, but that's going to be a super interesting story to follow. And similarly with the British ladies, if Georgia can get herself on the Olympic team, silver medal from Tokyo, and you almost yeah, you almost want to give them a free space just because of their previous history, because they're going to add value to the Olympic race, um, but they've got to hit the criteria, they've got to jump through the hoops. So yeah, we'll have to watch this story unfold in the next couple of months.
Totally. Totally. So, what's the biggest race on our radar at the moment, mate?
It is the unofficial World Championships in Oceanside.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. So we got Oceanside is happening on Saturday, the 6th of April. Um, the men's race with the gun going off at 6:40 local time. In Europe, that is 3:40 Central European time, I think, with the race starting at 2:40 in the UK. Based off that little quick bit of maths that I did. The race is broadcast live, so you'll actually be able to see it on the dedicated Ironman Pro Series app, which I haven't actually looked at yet. Have you seen the Ironman Pro Series app?
I have, and if you go onto the athletes, you can search my name and you can see my lovely face and profile.
Damn, damn. Don't do that, anybody. Your phone will never recover.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, it's a good little it's a good it's a good little site because they also have, before you see start lists come out, official start lists come out, you can go on athletes and see what races they've registered to as well.
okay.
So uh if you go on my profile, you can see that I've already registered for 3 Ironmans. Um so yeah, it's quite interesting. If you're a fan of sport and fan of specific athletes, if you want to see what races on the series they're going to be at, you can have a little gander.
Yeah, that's quite cool, isn't it? Because to be able to see which races athletes have already thrown their hat, it doesn't mean they're going to be there. It just means
Yeah.
they're interested, they've registered, they've logged on for those races. So you'll be able to start to build a picture of where people are putting their emphasis throughout the season. Do you have to pay to watch the broadcast?
I believe not. And
There you go.
I believe it's on the site. I'm not sure if it's going to be on YouTube as well. Um, but I think it's only in North America you need to watch it on outside TV. I think the rest of the world you can pretty much watch it on the website,
So
if
this is
I'm not
the
mistaken.
first race in the Ironman Pro Series. Are you expecting to see an improvement in broadcast? Are you expecting to see anything different, do you think, when it comes to the broadcast? I won't say improvement. Changes.
I think in terms of the previous Ironman kind of quality, I think so. I think it's hopefully going to be a little bit more of the standard of some of their like World Championship kind of broadcast where they do have more cameras out on course. They do capture not just who's leading the race. They kind of follow stories, key movers. They build things up. As I said, I think the social media has already kind of exploded a little bit the last few days, and I think Ironman are doing a good job of promoting, some of the bigger names that are racing that event. So yeah, I'm optimistic because they are televising every race on the series. So every race that is a series race is going to be televised, and I'm going to be racing quite a few of those races. So like very optimistic, very hopeful that the media quality is going to be good this time.
So let's talk about the start list. I assume you've got them there in front of you. Let's go with the women
Ooh,
first. It is a fairly good start list, eh? This one.
for
Give me
sure.
give
Yeah.
me some names. Give me you've got I assume you've got the start list in front
I've
of you.
got so from
Pick out some names for me. Tell me who we're going to be looking for.
the women's race, you got Tamara Jewett, who's a previous winner. You got Taylor Knibb, who's the ex-world champion from last year. Fenella Langridge, who won a Ironman Ender last year. Paula Finley, who I think might have won Oceanside as well. Emma Pallant Brown, Grace Feck, Danielle Lewis, Lauren Brandon, another Brit, Kate Karan. Um, yeah, there's 40 ladies, which is massive. I don't think we've ever seen on a non-world championship field. I don't think we've ever seen that many women on a start line.
No, no. I love the fact that Taylor Knibb's on that start list, despite being,
Yeah.
already pre-qualified for the Olympics, heading to Paris, doing a 70.3 in the start of the Ironman Pro Series, just to warm up for the year.
She just couldn't stay away from the time trial bike, I think.
No, 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 no. I mean, look, we are both, I know that we speak fairly often. I know that both of us are a big fan of Tamara Jewett. Um, who else do you see factoring in this race? Emma Pallant Brown's got to be one to look at over the 70.3 distance.
Yeah, I actually think for me, Finello is potentially one of the could do very well here. And this is kind of dependent on how well Taylor Knibb is firing. If
Hmm.
Taylor Knibb is on a world championship day and she just
Having a
blitzes
blinder.
it, yeah, she's, you blink and she's gone. But Fenella has the potential to kind of take a bit of a ride. If she can swim on with or around Taylor, she has, some serious power on the bike. She could get a nice little drag along, and then if she's hitting T2 in second and a gap on, the rest of the ladies behind her, I seriously think she could hang on for second. And I think yeah, I probably would post her as my second place if I had to do picks.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it comes down to how's Taylor Knibb on the day, like you say.
Yeah.
If she's firing, then can anyone get in the way of her and taking this first race of the pro season? With Tamara Jewett being the defending champion, I'm sure Nib wants that title.
Yeah. And I don't see anyone in this race beating Taylor Knibb. And I think it would take a incredible performance. And it's not to say some of these ladies aren't fully capable of it. Emma Pallant Brown, for example, if she is firing again, Taylor just has to take like one misstep and she's done. But I think everyone having a solid day, Taylor Knibb is just that standard above, and it's yeah, it could be a lonely day for her on the bike and run.
Yeah. She won it in 2021, didn't she?
Think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
think
she'd
so,
be
yeah.
looking to claim that title back. Tomorrow will be looking for a back to back, and Taylor's looking to get that title back off her.
And I'm always looking for like a nice run battle as well. If like Emma and uh Tamara get off the bike together or near each other. Um, Again, we're hoping the content that the Ironman put out is really good and they can kind of cover all these little races. But I would love to see those two ladies kind of running through the field together. Um,
Shoulder to shoulder.
yeah, they're just two of, there's a handful of ladies that you kind of classify as like Uber runners almost. And these two ladies are definitely two of them.
They are indeed. So, do you think that Do you think it's sensible racing if you've qualified for the Olympics in Paris, which is what we're now start of April, so April, May, June, July, four, 3 and a bit months away when it comes to like realistic usable time. How sensible is it racing a race like this? First off, how sensible is it racing a race like this flat out in that time frame? This is something I can't really speak to because I've never raced as a pro athlete. I've never been in your position where you're trying to qualify for the Olympics as a swimmer. I've never raced a pro Ironman. So I've got an opinion, but is my opinion particularly valid? What do you think?
I it's a very difficult topic. Ultimately, a lot of people will the pinnacle of their sporting career will be just, racing at the Olympics. So therefore, if you took that mindset, anything that was going to potentially cause you not to make the start line, you would be, you'd never leave the house. You'd be on the turbo trainer every day, and you wouldn't want to go outside in case you fell off your bike and things like that. And I think that's a very difficult position to be. Someone like Taylor, I feel like she has much bigger aspirations and she's still very young. So if something was to happen, God forbid, that, put her out of the Olympics, it's not like she wouldn't ever get an opportunity again. Um, so I personally think it's actually quite smart. I think she's probably done a lot of base building over the winter. She's probably done a lot of miles and she's done a lot of hours thinking about racing. And she probably just wants an opportunity to swim, bike, and run, pretty hard and just kind of see how the body responds. Um, she's obviously not going to be focusing on this. Like, she'd be crazy if she was like 100%, all in on Oceanside. Um, but she's probably put in, a decent training block and she just wants to kind of see where their fitness is at. And that's sometimes a dangerous way to be because you can kind of surprise yourself with how fit you are after the winter training.
I
Um,
constantly surprise myself with how fit I am.
no, but I personally think that it's a good thing to do. Get a 70.3 in now. She's going to have a couple more short distance races in the coming months before the Olympics, and then she'll be ready to go come end of July, if I'm not mistaken, um, in Paris. Yeah, I think it's a good move, and yeah, she enjoys the competition from what I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, look, my opinion is she's the kind of athlete who loves to race. She loves to perform. And in order to get the best out of yourself, wrapping yourself in bubble wrap for 3 months, if you've got that kind of mentality, are you going to come out of a period of being very protective of yourself as the best version of yourself? I don't think so. I
No,
think
no.
doing races like this, approaching the sport in the way that she has done right now, in the same way that she has done without changing anything, is going to get the best out of an athlete like her. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. It's just yeah, excited to see how she comes out Saturday.
So who's your pick for the women's race then?
Do we have to do that?
Yeah, we have to do that. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm taking Taylor for the win. I think, as I said earlier, I think Fenella will hopefully have a really good swim bike, and that will just pull her away from the field. So I think she'll get second, and then I think it's going to be a run battle for third between Tamara and Emma Pallant Brown. But I'll go the Brit. I think Emma will get third. Two Brits on the podium.
Do you think Tamara's DNF in Miami leaves a question mark over form going into this?
Uh, I think Miami was such a unique race. I think the intense heat and humidity there really affected some people more than others. Obviously, Emma um, DNF'd as well, was taken away in an ambulance. So I'm I don't want to think it will play an effect. I think the psychology of these athletes, they are quite good at compartmentalizing and kind of closing closing the page on one chapter and starting the next. Um, yeah, I hope she comes out firing because if everyone's on a good day, that's when the best racing happens.
What's the temp? What are the atmospheric conditions like in Oceanside? I
I
can't place
think
it.
it's a wetsuit swim, and I think it's normally pretty chilly race morning.
Yeah,
Um,
bit like
I
Devon,
don't,
sort of Devon
yeah,
style.
yeah, yeah. South Wales kind of bit of rain.
Driving rain and clouds.
Yeah, so I think it'd be good. I think it's good racing weather. I don't think the weather will hold anyone back.
Okie dokie. Then I am picking Emma Pallant-Brown for the win, followed by Tamara Jewett, rounding off the podium with Taylor Knibb. And to caveat that, we can't pick the same people.
I was going to say you're a very brave man betting
Yeah.
against the world champ.
Yeah, we try and keep it so that we don't choose the same people. But
Oh.
Emma Pallant-Brown's an athlete I've got a lot of time for. She's a tremendous performer, and I think that the conditions in Miami really undermined what she's capable of because she's just not very good in the heat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
So the men's start list, which I assume you've also got in front of you, is
Oh,
equally gargantuan.
yes.
Give me some
81
names,
men.
mate. Pick some
81
names as we
men.
go through this.
It's almost difficult too. So you got
Like a
like
who's who, isn't it?
previous winner Jackson Laundry, two-time world champion Patrick Lang. You got Lionel Sanders, who I think's won the race a couple of times as well. You got the junkyard dog, Joe Skipper, who it's interesting to see him in a 70.3 because it's just a very alien place for him. Uh,
Yeah.
Braden Curry, Sam Long, Yella Gaines, Trevor Foley, who I think might have pulled out.
Okay.
Um, Mark Dubrick, Chris Leiferman, Matt Hansen, Florian Anger. I'm only down like 12 people in and there's 81. So I'm not going to carry on from there. But
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
just having a look through, see if
crazy.
any other names jump out at me. But
So some people I think might feature a little bit. You got people like Eric Lagerstrom, who will be a front pack swimmer.
yeah,
You've
foreign
also
anger
got
as well.
Florian Anger. You got people like Dylan Gillespie, who's number 21. He's a good swimmer, and I think he'll be at the front of the race. Um, I'm gonna shout out
Do
my
you know who John Thelwell is?
John Thelwell. He was the overall age group winner at Ironman Florida last year. He is,
Was he?
as Joe Skipper likes to say, he is the fastest electrician there is because yeah, by trade he's an electrician, and then he's just turned pro. So,
Fair enough. Lewis Donovan,
um,
who's that? Do you know who that is?
so there's a couple of locals actually from Swansea. So you got Liam Lloyd, who's from Swansea, and Lewis Donovan, who's making his pro debut again. Yeah, chucking himself in the deep end with an 81 mile. Field is brave, very brave.
So why aren't we seeing the name Andrew Horsfall-Turner on this list?
I'm not gonna lie, I've said a couple of times, I've got a bit of FOMO. I feel like you see people on social media posting their runs along Oceanside seafront. Um, no, it was a decision I made pretty when I saw that the Pro Series had come out. My kind of main goal is still trying to, get a Kona slot this year. I definitely want to try and complete the series. But I didn't feel like Oceanside was a good move for me, mainly because of how early it was in the year.
Hmm.
But also I've got a 10-month-old baby, so it would take a lot of travel early in the year, and I'd either have to, spend a month in America or kind of fly back and forth. And yeah, logistically, I think starting my season in Texas just made more sense. But I've definitely got and I will get the itch on Saturday watching the men line up and kind of want to get stuck in. So, yeah,
Or stoke the fire for Texas, mate. Right.
yeah.
Looking at these names, what's going to happen in this race? How is this race going to play out? Joe Skipper
Well,
leads out the swim, leads off the bike, and runs for the victory.
I just
Gun
don't
to tape,
understand.
yeah?
Yeah, I just don't understand. I actually had this conversation with my coach David Toby Davis just before the podcast because we were just chatting. I don't know how Race Ranger is going to work because 81 men, 12-meter drafting, everyone's lights are going to be red because it's going to be there's not enough space on the road. Yeah,
So,
it's
what sort of race do you think we're going to see unfold, though?
I actually personally think it's gonna be a very not I was gonna say a like dominant race, but I don't think that's the right way of saying it. I think you're gonna see people who are very even across all three disciplines do well in this race because I believe that you need to be near or at the front at the swim. I think you need to be near or at the front on the bike because of race ranger, because of how many men there are, like 81 men. And then if you're getting off the bike in the front, you then need to be one of the best runners.
Hmm.
Um, and I think this, and it will probably go against what a lot of people believe. I think people like Joe, I think people like Lionel, I think people like Sam are gonna struggle more than they think to get to the front of this race. Not to say that they won't finish, in the top five. Like they definitely like the caliber of those athletes is incredible. But I think the firepower that you have with a 12-meter draft of some of these like good swim bike runners, very consistent across the board. People like Mark Dubrick and Yella Gaines, Patrick Lang, I think they're going to be very consistent on all three disciplines. And if those guys are working together, Braden Curry, you know, they're going to be hard to catch and to get ahead of.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Sam Long make up a huge amount of ground in Miami with that powerful run at the end. How close, how in striking distance does he have to be? Because catching Patrick
Yeah,
Lang is a tough ask.
and I don't even necessarily think that Patrick is going to be the strongest runner in this like in a half distance. I think you've got people like Yellow who can run 67, 68 half
Yeah.
marathon. I think people like Mark Dubrick have run 109. Jackson Laundrie's won this race. I think he ran 109 that day as well. If these guys are at the front and getting off the bike in front of Sam, it's not going to be the same as Miami because people aren't completely blowing up. I don't think you're going to have as many people like just
No, you haven't got that intense
catastrophically.
heat, have
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. So even if people are struggling or fading, fading and losing 30 seconds is very different in this race compared to Miami, where if you started fading, you'd suddenly start running, 5-minute kilometers because you just couldn't cope. Um, yeah, I truly believe it's going to be the winner of the race will be out the water in the top 10.
Okay.
I
So you
think.
think this is a race for a triathlete, basically, is
I
what you're saying.
I think the triathlon race will be won by a triathlete.
But no, yeah, I see what you're saying in terms of, this isn't going to be one for the Uber biker to come through the field. This is somebody who's balanced across all three disciplines, strong in all three disciplines, and can maintain that intensity throughout the race.
Yeah, I'm going to use like Sam as an example. The difference in a 20-meter draft zone and a 12 meters draft zone is completely different.
Yeah.
So in Miami, you saw him. I think the only person who rode quicker than Sam in Miami was Magnus Ditlev, and Sam was chewing through some of these guys. But the difference in this race when they're working 12-meter gaps and they're taking a turn on the front for a few minutes and then someone else is taking a turn, you're saving so many watts if you're sitting fourth, fifth, sixth in the line, and everyone's perfectly spaced at 12 meters. So even though Sam's charging at 390 watts for half an hour, I just think that it's basically like him, Lionel, Joe, Trevor, if he was racing, and a few others. It's basically like a few people versus like potentially a front group of like 20 working
Yeah.
together.
And do you
And
think I mean, I've never been in a pro race. How easy is it I mean, how easy is it to coordinate that many people? Are they going to be able to work together? Or is it just a case of they are together, so the drafting benefit is there? And then there's a few people at the front who are working efficiently.
I think it's more the case of, I think it's more the case of the the fact that they're all there. I think
Mm,
to coordinate, say, 15 to 20 people is never going to happen. But what you'll probably find in that group is there'll be three, four, five people who are very proactive and very like they know they've got 3 minutes on Sam Long or whatever it is. They know that they want to maintain that gap, and those are the people that will keep hitting the front and keep driving the pace.
yeah.
And
And then you'll have some people who are just sitting on the back. I mean, I say just sitting on the back. I realize
yeah,
it's very hard to, I wouldn't be able to sit on the back
I
of that
mean, you're
train.
still sitting on the back of 300 watts, but yeah.
Exactly. The wattage is up. But like you say, with the 12-meter draft, I know as well as anybody that, you're still getting a fairly decent draft there. It's worth sitting on the back of that pack. All that moving air, all those bodies going through it, you're going to get some help.
Yeah, and I think that's where I feel like the first half of the bike might be on with that front group.
Yeah.
But I think then a decision will be made if they have the information of how far people like Sam and Lionel are back. A decision will be made by some of the stronger runners in that group, and those guys will definitely start to not take their turns.
Do you think you'll see
Um,
someone like Patrick Lang just easing to the back of that group a little bit?
I wouldn't even say, yeah, I'd say Patrick's pretty, from what I've seen of his racing, I think he's always he always wants to keep the pace decent. So if he felt
Mhm.
the pace was, dropping significantly, he'd do his work. But yeah, you've got to believe that if he sat with, I'm trying to pick someone who might be in the front group, Florin Anger, for example, you've got to believe that Patrick feels that, 99 times out of 100, he in a foot race, he probably has the best of him. So therefore, he's going to be looking at a few of those athletes and thinking, well, it's on you to kind of get rid of me because I think I've got your number kind of thing.
Mm.
And that's where I think that's where the danger could happen in that front group. If everyone starts to play that game of chess a little bit too much, then that does leave the opportunity for Lionel pushing ridiculous power and gritting his teeth to come through because they've almost like given up on their opportunity. They're kind of so worried about like where they are and who's next to them and who's in front of them that they haven't thought about the bigger picture, which is, you're still better to get to T2 with the fewest amount of people possible. Because if there's three people into T2, then you've only got to beat two other guys. If you come into T2 with 30 people, then it's a complete whitewash, and who knows what happens then.
What happens then? Who's going to win this race? Andrew Horsfall-Turner.
Yellow gains. Yellow
Yellow
gains.
Gaines.
Yeah, I think as I said, I think it will be. I think you're gonna have to be out of the water in the top 10 to win the race, and I think Yellow will be out of the water in the front or near the front, and then I think he'll play very tactical. I'm not saying he'll just sit in, but I think he'll play tactical on the bike. And I think, yeah, out of that front group who I see kind of finishing the bike together, I see him as the strongest runner. Um, so I think Yellow will win. I think Mark Dubrick will get second, and I think Jackson Laundry will get third.
Okay. Basically, we're going to see the likes of Joe Skipper, Lionel Sanders, Sam Long, not really featuring.
Not, and again, it's like not featuring is a very like, yeah, it's a big phrase, but I think I see like your Sam and your uh Lionel Sanders. I see them finishing like fourth and fifth, and I see the difference between like say second, third, fourth, fifth, like them being within like a minute and a half or a minute. I feel like it's going to be a close race. I just feel like they're going to struggle to make it to the front, or if they get near the front at the end of the bike, they're just going to have done so much work. And I'm almost feeling like they're going to be in a very vulnerable position with Race Ranger and how the race is being refereed that you know, it would be very easy for someone to pick up a penalty. And I don't want penalties and stuff to dictate the race. But also, if they're charging and overtaking people, they've got to be careful not to be reckless in their pursuit of hitting the front. Because
Mm.
if they try and go around a group of 20 people and they realize after passing 15 of them that they've screwed themselves over, they've put themselves in that position. And I think they've got to be a little bit tactical of how they move up. And you don't know how everyone can swim in this race, but like Sam could get out the water in 50th, maybe 45th. That's 45, 44 people he's got to pass to hit the front of the race. Each person he's got 25 seconds to get past. And I just see that being real, like knowing how much you have to put out to go round someone, even like someone like myself in an Ironman, if someone's driving at the front at about 300 watts, I'm pushing 380, 390 for best part of like 30 to 40 seconds because you're building up to before you make the effort. And then you kind of can sit like as you go past them, you then continue for like a tiny bit as well. If you're passing trains of people, I'm not going to swear too much, but fuck, ow, that will hurt your legs badly. And again, that then how much does that affect your run?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, indeed. So, if you were racing this race, looking at who's racing, would you lead out of the swim first?
Yeah, I think it'd be a pretty crazy one. I'd like to think that I'd be there. I think me and Mark Dubrick might have a good little swim race. He's a really good swimmer from the US. The thing that does put me off from this race though is that the swim includes a run because they start them about 150 meters up the beach and they
Mm.
make them run 150 meters into the water. And this is kind of like a pet peeve of mine where some of the really terrible swimmers are very good runners. So they
Sprinters,
are,
very good
yeah,
sprinters.
very good
Yeah,
sprinters. Yeah. So they're able to run to the water, jump in the water and get going. And, unfortunately, it then takes me a little bit of time to swim around a few people, but
yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah,
So your pick for the win is Yella Gaines. Who am I going to go for? I mean, I'd like to see someone like Patrick Lang start with a bang. Yeah, I
yeah,
really would. Whether or not that's the case, I don't know. I'd also like to see Lionel Sanders have a banger and have a go at it. But I tend to agree with you when it comes to that little group. I think they're going to run out of road when it comes to trying to get to the front. So yeah, I'm going to go for Patrick Lang, I think. But Yella Gaines in second. I'll give you that.
yeah. Who's running at your podium?
Who's going to round out my podium? I'm going to go for John Thelwell.
Love it. Absolutely
Why
love
not?
it.
Why not?
Fastest electrician there is.
Yeah, yeah. So, looking forward to the rest of the year, mate. What are you looking forward to outside of your own racing? What excites you about 2024?
I just think it's these multiple kind of storylines to follow. And I think, after Oceanside, after Texas, you're going to get a feeling of who's doing like the Pro Series. You've obviously got the T100 series as well. And normally in a year, you've just got the World Championships to kind of get excited for. But I feel like these multiple streams of, series and yeah, basically just things to follow keeps everyone very engaged. And I'm hoping that you get to the point where you're like middle of the year and you're not like just waiting for Kona to happen
Mm,
because you're actually really excited that Lucy Charles Barkley is in third place in the T100 series and actually she needs to win the next two races to take the world championship. Or you're seeing that Joe Skipper's sitting in 11th place, but if he goes and wins Ironman Lake Placid, he could jump up to second place or whatever the storyline is. I feel like that as a triathlon fan, there's a lot more to be invested in. And as much as I love racing these guys, I also just enjoy watching the sport. And before I raced professionally, I was a fan of the sport. Um, so although I'm going to be involved in some of it, I definitely will enjoy the spectacle that is hopefully going to be this year. What
Yeah,
about
indeed.
yourself?
Oh, what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to seeing how the two series play out. I'm really looking forward to the PTO race in Singapore. I think they're going to up their game significantly. I think we're going to see the kind of broadcast we wanted to see in Miami and Singapore, and I'm quite excited to see that. I'm really stoked for this race to see how this plays out. Just less about the race. I mean, I'm keen on the race, but more about it's the start of a new thing. It's the start of the first time we've seen an Ironman Pro Series, and I'm intrigued as to what they do with it and how that spectacle and the package they put together for the weekend, how that plays out. Um, I am absolutely buzzing about the Olympics. You know, we've
Oh
got a
yeah.
preliminary plan together to be visiting the Olympics on our way past. I would very much like to go and see that race. Um, I think Paris is a stunning city. Um, I know that some of the athletes have said that the race course itself. I was speaking to who was I speaking to last week? Martin Van Riel. I was
Martin
speaking to
Barry,
Martin Van
yeah,
Riel.
yeah.
It's been a long week and a
Been a week,
long
yeah.
day. I was speaking to Martin Van Riel, and he was saying that he's not particularly inspired by the course, probably because it doesn't play to his strengths particularly. But it's not exciting. But I think the vista of a city for the audience is a spectacular place to go and race. Um, I'm also keen to see what happens in Kona this year. You know, we've had a year away for the men and going back to the Big Island, seeing whether we see a repeat of what happened this year or last year in Nice, whether other contenders come to the fore. I think we might see a Ditlev show in Kona this year, for example.
Yeah, I can only as you were speaking there, getting kind of excited about the Olympics and kind of the races that were happening, kind of just took me back to, was it beginning of 2020 when you and Tim did a preview show for the year ahead,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then we went into a global pandemic
yeah.
and
Global lockdown. Yeah, not
I
laughing at the lockdown,
know,
laughing here. I
but
remember
it's
doing the show at the end of 2019, and we both were just
that's the
like
one.
stoked for the year. And then we did the preview show in 2020, and it was just instantly the world just locked down. And then I think, if I'm honest, we've had some awesome things happen in the last few years. But I think that 2024 could be the year we never had.
Yeah, and it's
And
got I just think the potential with so many different avenues that are coming into play. Um, yeah, I'm just excited to be part of it and excited to see how it all plays out.
yeah, man. And I'm keen to see how you get on in
Yeah,
Texas.
man. Yeah, start the year, start the year, and I've got some plans for the rest of the year.
Can you
Which
divulge, or are they secret plans?
I'm definitely. I'll tell you the guarantees. The guarantees I'll be racing in Texas and I'll be racing in Lake Placid, and then
Nice.
we'll see. We'll see after that.
Are we looking for any wild cards at the PTO events?
If the opportunity came about, I would 100% love the opportunity. I think, and I spoke about this on another podcast about the opportunities for like up and comers in the future, and I think um, the consensus is like how exciting it is for people who are coming up in the sport, and we've just got to keep progressing, keep racing hard, keep showing that we, can add value to any kind of race and media product. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna try and do.
Nice. And Texas, mate, it's on my birthday. So,
Yep.
lock it in.
Happy birthday.
Right, man. I think that's probably about it from us this week. Um, so where can people find you if they want to follow you, if they want to join on your journey as you go through the year and attack all these races?
Yeah, best place is Instagram. I think it's Andrew underscore H underscore T. And then I think I've got links on there to YouTube that I do very irregularly and other things. So yeah, give me a follow and drop me a DM anytime, and I'm pretty responsive.
Cool, cool. Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, who's not here, it's at tford14 on Instagram, and I'm at bale.james85 on Insta. Find us across all social networks at Talking Triathlon on Instagram and at Talk Triathlon on Twitter. If you join the Patreon group, you'll get access to the monthly bonus episode, which is a few days late this month because Tim has been away on a work trip, so we haven't had a chance to do it. So it is coming, and we will put you in the social group. We'll put you in the WhatsApp group, and you can be part of the buzz that is constantly happening around this magnificent sport we all follow.
Awesome.
Cheerio.